Houston, we have a problem.
Give me all you got!
But what I do have are a very particular set of skills.
Give me back my gun! I didn't kill my wife! I don't care!
Hello and welcome to Stand and Watch, the best and only dad movie podcast you are listening to because we killed all the other ones. Most importantly, hello, Steve Buscemi.
Steve, hi, Steve. Hello. This is one of your hosts, Nick. We've never met, but you watch and listen to our show, and we appreciate it.
Well, you don't actually. You do watch. You're the only one with access to the videos. We
Our only patron.
Yeah. You're the only one that knows we have a Patreon. Anyway, yes, that was Nick. I'm your other host, Matt. And I don't know how to segue into this movie. It's very late. We're very delirious.
So we're very tired, and we're doing elevated horror, but we're de-elevated. What's the opposite of elevated? Unelevated.
Lowered.
Low. We're low T. This is elevated horror. This is It Follows.
We should just record this. We should just record this very lowered, like that radio host, the jazz radio host on Parks and Rec.
I think the terminology you're looking for there is NPR host. It kind of has like a wet slap to every other word.
No, I'm specifically talking about
we sound sophisticated.
The guy who voices Homer Simpson, Dan, whose last name I can never remember, played a character on Parks and Rec. He was the host of a radio station. It was a jazz radio station, and he spoke like this. He was very unemotional, very lowered, very quiet, very calm, because it was a jazz station. Because all jazz radio hosts sound like they're putting themselves to sleep.
I agree. I'm gonna try to. Yeah. Am I too high right now? I can go lower.
Go a little bit lower. A little bit lower.
I'll go lower.
We gotta sound like we're putting ourselves to sleep. Much like this movie put me to sleep.
But it can't be too low to where it's sexy. It can't be sexy. Like this movie isn't sexy. It isn't as sexy as I remember it being when I watched it in college.
Trust me, if my ex-girlfriend is a truth teller, nothing about this is sexy.
Yeah. This is the least sexiest horror movie. This is elevated horror. They're not about the sex. They're not about the monsters. It's kind of about the monsters, but it's elevated.
Yeah, nothing here is sexy. It's not a sexy movie. This isn't going to be a sex. Most of our episodes are quite sexy, actually. In fact, our last episode was maybe the sexiest because it was about Glenn Powell. But this episode, no sex, no sexiness. It's not going to sound sexy. We're not going to be discussing things that are sexy.
No. Matt, when you hear the words elevated horror, what comes to your mind?
Fuck you.
What's your favorite elevated horror movie?
I don't have one. I despise the term.
Well, because it insinuates that all other horror doesn't have anything of value to offer.
We discussed this when discussing Men.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so long ago.
We're circling back. We're circling back for listeners who may have forgotten, because also circling is a theme within It Follows. In case you didn't recognize at the very beginning of the movie, and we'll do the rundown of the movie, but at the very beginning of the movie, this woman runs in circles from the monster before dying.
And thematically, the movie circles the drain.
Yes. I am very disappointed because going into this watch, I was very much like, this is a top 10 movie. I even posted about it on my echo chamber, Blue Sky. And then I watched it and I was like, oh, I hate this. And then I texted you and said, hey, how did you like it? And you're like, I hated it. And I was like, oh no, I really stepped in shit here. I really drummed this movie up.
I'm really disappointed because you told me it was great. Everybody told me it was great. Everybody who talks about this movie praises it. So I went into this movie expecting to see an incredible horror movie, a movie I would really like. And I watched it and it opened really strongly. And I thought, yes, this is the movie people told me about. And then it kept going. And I thought, the only thing that's following this is a good nap.
It's gonna get a bad Letterboxd review, and it's gonna get a good nap. That's what's
Yeah.
going to happen.
Yeah.
That's what it follows. I have the Wikipedia up here. Let me educate the
Yeah.
people on it follows.
Before you do that, can I just confirm, are we actually doing the whole episode like this?
You know what? I'm committed to the bit if you are.
Okay, let's do it.
It's a low energy. It's almost 1 a.m. where I'm at.
It
It
is
is 1 a.m. where Matt is.
Yeah, so low energy episode for. It's good this is a lower energy episode because it's far too late for me to be getting high strung about how much I hated this movie, which would happen if we weren't committed to this bit.
Save it for the sandwich. It Follows is a 2014 American horror film written and directed by David Robert Mitchell. It stars Maika Monroe. It also stars Keir Gilchrist, Daniel Zavato, Jake Weary, Olivia Lucardi, and Lily Sepe. If you don't know any of those names, it's okay. I don't either. I will say the music is by Disaster Piece, who also famously has done the music for the video game Fez and the other video game Hyper Light Drifter. Very synth heavy, almost like Black Moth Super Rainbow, if you know, you know. Yeah, dreamlike kind of music. So the movie is about a woman, a young girl. Let's call her to college age. Yeah, she's a college student. Loses her virginity to a guy who was apparently being haunted by a demon. Who, after you have sex with, if you are being haunted by this demon and you have sex with somebody, they are then haunted by that demon who pursues you until it kills you. And then once it kills you, it goes back to the person who gave it to you, so on and so forth. And so the rest of the movie is about this girl whose name is, I believe it's Jay. Yeah, Jay. Jay, who's trying to avoid this fuck demon, and her and her friends trying to escape it, and it's all about sex and death and everything, and that is essentially the movie. Let's go ahead and get right into our Letterboxd approved reviews.
Our dad approved Letterboxd reviews.
I'm sorry. Dad approved Letterboxd reviews. I'm sorry. It's a soft spoken, weary.
It's quite late. It's quite late. It's fine.
No dad should be up this late. My review is from Adam Bolt, who is not a patron on Letterboxd or Premium or whatever. He gave it 2.5 stars, and he said, "Virginity is cool. Remain pure."
All right. My review is from Mommy Longlegs, who is not a patron or a pro member of Letterboxd. Shame on you, Mommy Longlegs.
Cheap.
Mommy Longlegs gave It Follows 3.5 stars and wrote, "I had a dream that I was being followed, except instead of a person, it was a moose."
That's pretty good. That's pretty good, Lady Longlegs.
Yeah, that's a very dad-like reaction to this movie. That's something a dad would say after watching this.
I do like it. Let's go ahead and hop in right into our sandwich. I know this is a positivity sandwich. You get the positive bun, negative meat, positive bun. I think it's going to be a big piece of meat here. So let's get right into the bread. The soundtrack. I think the soundtrack is standout. Disaster Piece. I love the music in Fez. It's very dreamlike, very otherworldly, and it carries over into this. And it's very hopeful in the beginning, and then once that Lee motif of the kind of leaves, like we never hear it again until the end. But and then it gets really creepy. Really, it's almost like he's laying on the keys. Very creepy.
Yeah, I've never played Fez or Hyper Light Drifter, but the music in this movie is bumping. It's quite bumping, in fact. Every time I was the longer this movie went on, the lower my energy got. Except when I was thinking about how much I didn't like it, in which case my blood pressure went up a little bit. But whenever the music came on, my energy went up because it was so bumping. I was like, yeah, it's rocking. Like I could, if they played this music in the club, I would go to a club maybe.
In the club?
In the club.
They can't see us, but we're popping our heads.
I'd go back to the club.
I'm a sucker. I don't know what it is. I've never been, but I'm always a sucker for movies that feature Detroit. Just the decrepit, suburban decay. This movie does a really good job of that. They even talk about it throughout the movie. One of the characters, who I forget her name, and I'll get more into her when I get into the negatives.
I'm going to be honest with you. I forgot all of their names. Except
Jay, and then the guy simping for her. I forget his name, but I call him Simp.
Jay and Paul are the only two I remember, and I only remember that because one's a big simp, and one is the main character that you named 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I'm happy to help, but there's a character that like does a lot of reads, and she's at one point she's talking about how her mom didn't want her to go past a certain point in the city, and she thought that was very sad. And I was like, yeah, that is sad. Like it felt like inside baseball. Like again, I've never been to Detroit, but anytime it's featured in a horror movie, I think this is one prominent one that I remember. Don't Breathe, I also think was another one that was shot predominantly in Detroit. I was going to say The Barbarian. The Barbarian is set in Detroit, but surprisingly, they shot a lot of their stuff overseas. So, as much as I love The Barbarian, sorry guys.
Is it The Barbarian? I thought it was just Barbarian.
The Barbarian to me. I've added the.
That's the sequel. The first one was
from Facebook had to go somewhere. You can't just cancel a the. That the has to go somewhere else.
The first one is called Barbarian, and the second one is called The Barbarian. They're taking the Suicide Squad route.
It's a prequel. But no, I'm a fool for Detroit. They shoot Detroit very beautifully, and maybe I'm just being a nosy onlooker watching like this city and the suburbs around it fall apart. But I always like when films are set actually in Detroit and filmed there.
I think this movie has an incredible opening. Like, I think it's 5 minutes with the girl. She's running from something out of her house. You don't know what it is. You don't know what's chasing her. The camera work is fantastic. It keeps things disorienting. It keeps things confusing. I can't believe I'm saying this. It elevates the horror.
Really? It elevates it?
It elevates the horror of the situation because you don't know what she's running from. You don't know why she's afraid. The camera itself is kind of doing the Sam Raimi thing of being the thing chasing her. And you're like, what's she running from? Why is she so frightened? You know, it's spinning around. It's disorienting you. She ends up on a beach. She's calling her parents saying, you know, I love you, Mom. I know I don't say it enough. You're like, well, you know, what's happening to this girl? It's very investing. It hooks you in immediately. I wish the whole movie was like that.
Let's just get to the bad guy. I feel like it'll open up more discussion, and then we can get back to some good later on.
Okay. I don't know if I have much good later on.
I think one big bad is that, yeah, we get the rules, but and again, this is a movie about death. If you have a mouth breathing film critic that told you this was an allegory for AIDS, they're fucking stupid. They don't know what they're talking about.
It's a movie about the march of time.
Yes.
It comes for us all. You are going to grow up. You are going to grow old. You are going to die.
It's a film about the excitement of that first sexual interaction, and how like for a time that's the thing you're building towards. You're like, yes, this will be the next part of my life. And then once you've got that release, and once you're like kind of like, hey, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and then you realize the next thing after that is death. The ever present presence. It's coming. It's always coming.
Everything is a stepping stone towards the forward march of time, and you can never outrun it.
Never.
And
just like you can never outrun the bad dialogue in this movie.
Yeah. I have so many negative. This is the most notes I've ever written for a movie, and they're all negative.
So the movie does something that I liked the first time I saw it, and I hate it now. So the movie doesn't really give you a time frame when this is set, and the technology is all very vague. Like there's the one annoying friend that's always quoting poetry that has this. It's like a shell. It's kind of like an e-reader, but it's a shell. But then they're watching a tube. They're watching a tube TV, and I get what they're saying. They're saying this has always been how it feels. Like everyone has that. Sex. Oh, I had sex, now death. They're saying that this is a generational thing that has happened to every generation and will keep going and going and going. I get it. But when you do that, you don't give your characters a chance to breathe. These don't feel like real characters at all.
This pissed me off. So much of this movie pissed me off, but I'm glad you bring this up because the phone thing, I wrote it down and then I deleted it because I thought maybe that sounds a little too pedantic. But now that you bring it up again, thank you, because I'm going to rip into this. This movie, in the very first scene, now I know the whole, oh, you don't know what time period it is. They keep it vague because, maybe it's it keeps it dreamlike, like a nightmare, where you are in time and space. And obviously, this is a universal fear. It always comes no matter what, the forward march of time. But in the first scene of this movie, the girl on the beach calls her parents on a cell phone. No one else in this movie ever uses a cell phone. But you've set up that cell phones exist in this world. So why is no one using one ever? And so it might sound pedantic of a complaint, but it's such a big problem because it's indicative of everything wrong with this movie. It's a great idea. I love the idea of this movie, and it just fucks itself over constantly.
And it was giving me very Diablo Cody Juno's hamburger phone quirky vibes. Like, oh look, I've got a shell phone. Oh look, we watch Tube TV, even though we know damn well there's a flat screen TV in one of these rooms somewhere.
I don't even know where to start with my negative reviews. I'm going to start with Paul.
The simp.
Paul is a simp, but Paul's fucking creepy.
All his toxic masculinity to call back to men.
I don't even know if he's toxic masculinity. He's just he's just a weird, creepy guy, and I don't like him, and I don't think they intended for me to dislike him. But I found him, I don't think that was the intention. I found him extremely off-putting. He was, like, at one point, I think he's like on her roof looking into her window. And that's just never mentioned or brought up again. And it's just like, he's always like side-eyeing her or like looking at her like in a creepy way. And he's just so fucking creepy and he's simping for her. And fine, you want to be a simp, but just don't be creepy about it. But Paul's fucking creepy. And I'm almost positive he's supposed to be like a charming, like nerdy dork character, right? But he's just a fucking weird, creepy stalker-like dude. And then at the end, the movie ends with him and Jay like holding hands. And I don't buy that at all.
I think what they're saying with him, and I agree, he's very off-putting. He was off-putting when I first watched it, but he's even more now that I'm a little older. There's a point where Jay has made Whoopi with the 90s teenager. I don't remember his name, but he's very 90s coded.
The neighbor.
And maybe the neighbor boy, who, again, 90s coded. Maybe that's an AIDS reference. And then the simp boy is like, why not me? Why don't you do me? Why don't you do me? Like, come on. And it was in that moment, I'm just like, dude, like, no, like, you're her friend.
This is my problem, is like the whole movie, like, okay, they're friends, right? But he's creepily sipping for it. He's creepy about it. And then he's like, why not me? I can, whatever. But like the whole movie, it's quite clear that she sees him as a friend. She's friend zoned him like a long time ago. Like they have a history. They've been friends for a long time. That's all she sees him as. And so they have sex, but it's not presented as like some romantic victory or like, oh, they finally got together. It's presented like a business transaction. And now I'm supposed to believe they're cute and holding hands? I don't fucking think so.
It almost feels like hey, if you're just throwing it around town and then you decide to slow down, and for the guy who's been sticking around, you're going to have a slow, steady decline in the suburb. It just felt like, okay, you could stay with the nice guy, who cares? Or you could go be adventurous. Like, it's almost saying like, no, get out there, go fuck people and don't think about death. But don't fuck Paul. Fuck Paul.
He's creepy. I don't like him. He fucking annoys me. Every time he's on screen, I'm like, get him off my screen. He's off-putting.
I do think what they were going for was like kind of a Fast Times at Ridgemont High situation, where you have the one, I forget her name, I forget the character's name. It's been a while since I've seen Fast Times. Is that Stacey Hamilton has sex, but it's not with the boy that likes her. I think they were trying to build that kind of thing. Who was that? Was that I'm gonna find him. Was that Mark Ratner playing by Brian Backer?
I haven't seen that movie.
Have you seen Fast Times?
I have once, years ago.
So Fast Times, this character is basically in the friend zone. and wants to be with this girl who's having sex with these other guys. And by the end of it, they get together. But he's much more charming than Paul. Paul is off-putting and thinks he's owed something because he's been a friend. And that's where the toxic masculine, like, dude, you're just her friend. Like, be okay with that.
Yeah.
Like, you have a relationship. Why do you have to put it in her?
If you're gonna be a nerdy simp, like, get an actor who has some charisma, make him likable.
Yeah.
Paul's whole deal is like, oh, I'm such a nice guy. Why didn't you go for me? Fuck you.
Sorry, Paul. Le wrong generation. Sorry,
Yeah.
Paul. I also, so to get to the friend with the shell phone, I hated her the most.
I can't even say I hated her because I don't know anything about her. And this is in my notes. Her friend with the shell phone, who I completely forgot about the shell phone, to be honest with you. I labeled her here as friend with glasses. But her friend with the glasses and her sister are nothing characters. Now,
Didn't even realize that her sister was there.
none
That
of
was
the
her sister.
Yeah, none of the characters are really interesting at all, but like at least the other ones have some distinct characteristics. Like Jay is like the main character, you know, neighbor guy is the neighbor guy with the 90s vibe. He's, you know, I guess useful to them. He's doing things, right? Paul's the creepy simp. You know, they say things like they do things at least that affects the plot. Her sister and her glasses friend, like, I don't know, they have dialogue, but they don't have personas. Like, they're just there. They're just people that are there. They're empty vessels that say things that don't matter, really. And if you completely remove them from this movie, nothing would change. They don't do anything. They don't add anything. And they're not people.
Glasses Girl is just there to be the, hey, the message of the movie. She's going to find a poem on her phone, and she's going to read it to everybody in the most monotone voice. And then there were 3 apples on the ground because gravity took them down to the ground. And then it's just like, why? This is the second movie in a row we watched where some philosophy guy or some poet's being quoted to give us the message of the movie. And I hate that. I think poetry is, as the information, is the new news report.
Yeah, but
like, yes, we are on the scene where the tower has been taken.
And here's the difference, though. When Glenn Powell in Hitman is given his philosophy lectures, I'm at least interested because he's an interesting person.
Yeah.
He delivers it with charisma. I'm watching it going, oh, this is just a heavy-handed way to convey the themes of the movie, but I could listen to him read the phone book and I'd be entertained. What the fuck am I, like, who are these people? I don't, like, I don't even want to call them characters. Characters have something. These people are nothing. They have no personality. They have no characteristics. They have no personas. They have no charisma. They don't have anything interesting to say. They don't have anything interesting to add. They don't do anything. Why are they there?
Do you think that's the movie? And I wanted to ask you this question, but do you think that's the movie commenting on, like, just people in their early 20s and, like, their teens thinking they're more interesting than they actually are?
No, I think that's a movie with poorly written characters.
Okay. The thought creeped up in my head because, they're all dumb young people who just think about boning and reading their cell phones. But
because even if you wanted to make a movie where, oh, we're going to showcase how, you know, teens are kind of uninteresting, but they think they are more interesting and intellectual than they really are, you still have to have a character who's interesting as a character to watch. And these people aren't. So even if that was their goal, they failed miserably.
Once like the monster is on to Jay and we kind of catch on, like, once things get rolling, like, there's really nothing. The movie is just cat and mouse. It's basically that question you see pop up on Reddit, like, if you could get $1 million, would you let a snail chase you? And if that snail touches you, like, you've seen that, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have to outrun the snail. The movie becomes an hour and a half of that after we learn everything we need to learn.
It's essentially they go to a place. They don't do anything interesting. The monster shows up. Jay screams and runs around. Her friends flail around going, what's happening? What's happening? They go somewhere else. Repeat.
And again, the rules of the monster is not very... It's not, like, we don't have... And I get it. Again, it's vague because death comes in many forms. I get it.
This is my problem. This is my biggest problem with this whole oh, the monster changing rules thing. People will say, oh, it's a horror movie, so it's, horror movies change the rules all the time if it functions for the horror. But here's the thing. This movie is about the slow, encroaching horror of death. You can't run from it. It's coming for you no matter how slowly. And a slow walking, this is what I said. Like, I like the idea of this movie. A monster that just walks towards you. It always knows where you are, and it's always coming for you, but it just slowly walks. And no matter what you do, you can't outrun it. That's a great concept, and that's horrifying because it's the slow march of death. Time comes for us all. This fucking thing starts throwing stuff. It starts crawling around. It climbs into a window. At one point, it's on a roof for absolutely no reason. It's just standing on the roof.
Creepy. It's just so they can have the creepy shot.
Yeah.
But
it's on the roof just to have a creepy shot of it on the roof. And normally, and I know this might sound hypocritical, in other reviews, we've been like, yeah, it's fine to just have something in there that looks cool. But like, the point of this monster is that it's an allegory for the slow march towards your eventual doom. It's going to happen to all of us. You're going to get older. You can't stop it. You're going to become an adult. You're going to become an old person. You're going to die. And that's enough. And when this thing starts picking up objects and throwing them, when it starts crawling, when it starts climbing into windows, it dilutes the monster's effectiveness as a metaphor. It makes it less scary. An ever-looming threat that does nothing but slowly approach you, slowly encroach on you, and you can't outrun it no matter what, is a very strong, terrifying villain. And when you make it do other things, you turn that into any other horror movie demon ghost.
Well, the other thing they do that is super annoying is, again, the monsters can take the form of anyone. Like, it could be you or me hanging dong at any moment. And there's a moment in the middle of the movie where I think it takes the form of Jay's dad. And it's implied that Jay's dad killed himself. And the movie never really goes back to that. And again, I don't need my stuff spoon-fed, but again, they keep it very vague. They don't really touch upon it. And because so Jay's now that you mention it, I'm like, duh, that is Jay's sister. Because Jay's sister's like, who's it in the form of? They're in the pool. They're like, oh, who's it in the form of? And Jay's like, I don't want to say. And there's a shot where it lingers on a photo of Jay, her sister, and their dad, or who I assume to be their dad. And then that's the guy who's attacking them at the pool at one point when she says she doesn't want to say. And I forget what it is. I think it's implied he killed himself. I forget how it was, though. But again, the film is very vague about that. The 90s kid, I think he gets killed by his mom.
Yeah.
Or the monster in the form of his mom with her boobie hanging out. And yeah, it's just this is still terrifying, but I kind of want to know, I want to know the significance of it. I want to know, okay, well, obviously this thing is fucking with them. Tell me why. Tell me why. If you're gonna break rules, if you're gonna have it throw electronics into the pool, you got to give me more than that. You got to explain, okay, well, it's taking the forms of your loved ones because they've experienced death or they've been killed by this monster or something along those lines. I don't need it to be that simple, but
yeah, once it starts throwing things in, once it gets smart, it's just a horror movie demon. This could have been a fucking Paranormal Activity ghost. This could have been a Conjuring ghost. It could have been anything. You could see a creepy person throwing things and fucking creeping around on roofs and crawling into things and, fucking peeing themselves in any fucking horror movie, right? But this movie, the whole concept of this movie is we have the cool monster, the ever looming threat of death. It just slowly marches towards you. And then it just immediately, just almost as soon as it introduces that, it's always coming for you, just slowly walking. As soon as it's introduced, they start doing other shit. And it's why? And it's just nothing.
The sex rules are also very vague. And I, this time watching, I was like, okay, well, this ghost, what if it's a hand job? What if it's a blow job? I was being goofy. I was like, okay, what is this monster actually like here? Like if we're doing dumb things with the monster where it's a person, it could be a person, or we're doing things where it's like, oh, it's
Yeah.
getting on the roof and hanging
Um,
brain. Like okay, so this monster, you obviously have some ideas for this monster just besides the fact that it's pursuing you. Like either stick to the simple, it's just gonna pursue you and take forms, or fucking, hey, this demon was happened when a witch and another witch fucked, and now everyone's cursed because of that or some shit.
a guy I know had a great note about this in his letterbox review. I'm going to shout him out. His name is Robert Stewart. He hosts his own podcast.
Robert.
He hosts the Stew World Order. They talk about comic book movies. I've been on it a couple times. It's a good show. Check it out. He had a good note about this in his review, and I'm just going to read it because it's almost exactly what you're saying here. He gave it 3 stars. He goes, a good movie that got me obsessed with trying to figure out the rules of its universe, which is both a good, I was invested, and bad, I was distracted thing. And yeah, it's very distracting.
It's a movie that's more interested in symbolism than it is in like telling a good story and having a concise monster that makes sense to everybody. Because another thing, like, this movie will beat you over the head with the color red.
It's distracting. It's like, the rules are distracting because you're like, okay, so they explain the rules, but then that doesn't make sense, and and then you start thinking about it, and it pisses you off, and it's distracting. And then at the same time, you're like, well, like your base concept was already so strong, and then you're bending these rules for symbolism or for just the cool shot, and it's like, but like you're diluting yourself. You're like, you're fucking watering down your own soda. What are you doing? And it's just annoying.
And the symbolism, the fucking symbolism of water, like water is life. And then you have the circle of the pool. And then when the monster's on the roof, the pool's been damaged because the monster went through the pool. And now the circle is damaged. There's no water in there. It's like, we get it. Water is life. Red is loss of innocence. Go fuck yourself.
I was so invested in that opening sequence. And then it kept going, and I don't know, I think by the time they were on the beach, I was checking my watch. I was like, how much longer is this fucking thing going? And it's not a long movie, but I was so bored. I was bored by this. You're right, it is more concerned with symbolism. And so at a certain point of being like, this is stupid, and they've diluted their own monster, I'm just like, okay, well, what else am I left with? Well, not much, because I don't have any attachment to Jay at all as a character. I mean, like, the performance is fine, I guess, but like, I don't know who she is as a person, as a character. I don't get a sense of her personality. I don't get a sense of who she was before this started happening to her. I don't get a sense of how this, like, every movie, and I'm gonna pull up fucking my screenwriting 101 classes notes, but it's like, why now, right? Why is this happening to her now? What's the significance? I don't know, because I don't know who she is, so I don't care. And she's not charismatic enough for that to not matter.
And I do think there's like a lost thread there. I think if like they had carried through with whatever they were planning to do with the father character, because obviously this is just a girl looking to go have sex with this guy. It doesn't even mention if she lost her. I don't even think she lost her virginity at this point. I don't know if there was a line in there about her losing it, but this was just a random one night stand.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I don't know why does it matter? Like, okay, sure, every young adult goes through this thing of, they're becoming an adult and that's scary and you're 1 year closer to death, but like, why is that significant for her now? What's the thing that's making her anxious about it? I don't know what year of university she's in. I don't know what she's studying. I don't know what her plans are for the future. I don't know what her fears are. I don't know anything about this girl other than she's being hunted by this monster that makes no goddamn fucking sense. So I don't care. So now I'm bored.
It's like you said, they get chased by the monster, but then they find time to like go hang out. Like they hang out on the beach for a little bit, and I forget the order of things, but they're sitting at the beach, and I'm just like, you guys, what are you doing? Why are you just hanging out? And again, the movie could lean on they're teenagers. This is what teenagers do. But I'm like, no, like Jay's had like these things going. Jay is being chased by this thing. She was essentially assaulted by this man who told her she was going to be killed by this demon. But let's go hang out at the fucking beach. let's go have a powwow. Let's go have a kiki on the beach and talk about that damn thing that happened.
Also, and I hate to be one of those people, but when you
Be that
really
people.
when you really unravel it, the guy who gave it to Jay, why didn't you just go hire a hooker, man?
Yeah.
Like that. Obviously, the answer is because then there's no movie. But when a movie doesn't make any sense, you start poking all the other holes in it, and that's a big fucking hole.
Literally.
Like,
Look, I gave you the answer off the show. I'm going to give it to the audience here because this is how you beat this demon. And the answer is, whoever you are, you have sex with an astronaut who is an hour away from going off into space. Game over. Game over, monster. You're not get. But then again, it got on that roof, so who knows?
yeah, right? Like, it doesn't make like, there's just who knows? Who knows? There's no fucking rules.
In space, no one can hear you cream.
Yeah, there's no rules. It doesn't make sense. I'm watching this, and normally during a movie, I should be watching a movie, being invested in it, and in this movie, I'm thinking about the shit that pisses me off, all the wasted potential. I'm thinking about, damn, I wish this was like those open in 5 minutes, and above all, and this is the worst thing to me, the worst thing a movie can do, even above making me bored. The worst thing a movie can do is make me want to watch a different movie instead. And by like the 45-minute mark, maybe an hour, whenever they're on the beach, I'm thinking to myself, this just made me want to watch Halloween.
Just die already. Just die.
Right? They're on, right? The monsters start doing things, and I'm like, oh, I get it now. I get what you wanted to do. Again, I like the idea of this, and you fucking ruined your own idea mid-movie. I'm just like, I should just watch Halloween. I just want to watch Halloween.
Halloween does Suburban Decay better.
It does. It does the you can't run no matter what you do. It does that better. It does a thing following you better. It has consistent rules within its universe.
The music's good. I mean, the music's good in both, but I mean, you're not touching John Carpenter's soundtrack.
And it's this, and two, it's like you can say the same things I said about Jay. You could say that about Laurie. Like, you don't really know that much about her. She's in high school. She's babysitting, right? But you don't really know her that well as a character. But that doesn't matter because Jamie Lee Curtis is Jamie Lee Curtis. So you're invested in this character because of her performance.
So the thing that works about Jamie, Laurie. The thing that works about Laurie in that movie is that you have a time frame to point it to. You're like, oh yes, this is Haddonfield in the 70s. This is okay. Like this is how this neighborhood operates. Whereas so in this movie, in Halloween, you have the kids, you have them partying, you have them doing all these things.
You have a consistent world.
You have a time. You have a frame of reference. Whereas to this, you're like, the kids have the phones. They don't have the phones.
Yeah.
They just lay around on the beach. And there's only 2 deaths in this movie, which I remember even the first time watching it and being like, that's really low. But I think it's kind of symbolism aside, like the fact that the 90s kid and then the girl that's presenting is like maybe a Gen Z, almost like a younger millennial die. I don't know if it's the movie trying to say the good die young or something. I don't know. But because I think Jay's kind of 80s coded. Jay's 80s coded. I'd say that Paul is early 2000s lovable loser coded. And then everyone else is just so vague that I don't even know how to code them.
Yeah, I don't fucking know. Yeah.
It's basically saying that the early millennials, the boomers, and Gen X are all going to live on forever.
I was so invested in that opening 5 minutes, and the movie kept going on. And the more it went on, I was like, fucking. And then, the monster is introduced. I'm like, okay, great, right? Love it. And then it starts doing shit. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you just said all it does is walk. That's terrifying. All it does is walk. You can't outrun it. And then now it's fucking throwing things through your window. Look,
it blew the side off that shed.
Yeah, like I don't understand. Like
If you could do that,
If-
you can beat through that roof.
If the metaphor is you can't escape Father Time, what the fuck does it throwing things into the pool to electrocute you? What the fuck does that mean? Like, how does that play into your metaphor? And it doesn't. It's just, well, it has to attack them because it's a horror movie. But like, you've ruined your own horror movie.
We've already got Final Destination that throws
Yeah.
that has death throwing everything at those poor people.
Yeah, like
you can be the slow death. That's okay.
Yeah.
You can be the slow, monotonous. Like that would be a more interesting movie instead of this monster that's like, these dumbass teenagers left these toasters out. I'm throwing these toasters.
Like you've just ruined. And a horror movie lives and die by its monster, and it's the monster's a metaphor, and you've made your monster your interesting, unique monster. You've turned it into every other fucking ghost, and you've ruined your metaphor. So now you're left with, okay, well, do I care about the characters? No. Well, okay, is there anything else in this to keep me going? No.
To get back on the positive side, some great background work. I usually watch movies and like the background work is shit. Background actors are just like doing God knows what, but like, you know, obviously this movie has a lot of like people walking and getting you thinking like, is that it? Is that it? Is that it?
Yeah.
Just very good stuff. Very keeps you on the edge of your seat while you're still invested in the movie. Makes you wonder like, is that the thing or is that not the thing?
It's very well directed. There's great camera work in it. You know, a lot of 360-degree spins. It's very stylized. It looks nice. There's a lot of nice shots of like, there's a lot of nice like far away shots that are almost like documentary like something's watching them from afar, you know, approaching, you know. So I don't know. It's well directed enough that I'm at least not completely opposed to watching this guy's other movie.
I did enjoy. So there's a specific scene in the college where it opens like the camera's basically in the school, but it's zoomed so far in to someone walking in the like in a weird spot in the grass where like they wouldn't be coming from anywhere specifically. And it zoomed like it slowly pans out and we get back to like where Jay is, but you can still see that person walking and you're like, okay, is that like someone who just finished lunch and they're getting up from the quad? And then like we kind of lose that person for a minute, but then we shoot back and we see they're still walking towards Jay. And I love that shit. Like that's suspenseful because I know it's coming. I know it's coming. Jay doesn't know, but Jay becomes aware of it midway through it and you're like, oh fuck, get out of there, Jay. Get out of there. Go fuck somebody.
I like that scene in the college because like that's what I signed up for with this. That's what I want. I want a monster that's slowly approaching you, and who, you know, I'm looking in the background. Who is it? Who's walking? You know, like, and there's so many possibilities for that type of thing, and they do it once, and then they start having it kick doors in and climb through windows. You're like, no, do what you did at the college.
I kind of wish the movie would also. I know I'm getting back into negatives, but I thought a lot about Smile this time while watching it. And in Smile, that character is getting gaslit like a motherfucker through the entire movie. And all these friends just jump on willy nilly. They're like, "Oh, there's a monster. We're going to protect you. Whatever. Yeah, we got you, girl." And I'm kind of like, no, I kind of want them to be at odds. I think that is the main issue here is that there's no conflict between the characters whatsoever.
And I think that stems from the fact that there's really no characters. There's people in this movie, but there's no characters.
Like there's hints of conflict, like with the dad and like with everything going on, but nothing. And I mean, there's a moment where Jay swims out to the frat boys on the boat for an orgy. I mean, say what you will about that scene, but I don't know if that hints at like a traumatic past with family. Maybe I read that in a think piece or something, but I just, man, I really wish I hadn't rewatched this.
I really wish I hadn't watched this.
Before when they announced They Follow, the sequel that they're doing.
Is it called They Follow?
You know, it's called They Follow, and I'm like, I don't know if you really need it. I don't really think this movie needs a sequel. And I still don't think it does, but I'm like, I kind of want this to redeem itself. Maybe age up. If you're doing the same characters, age them up, make them interesting. And then, catch up with them and see like how they're avoiding death. I would be interested if Jay and Paul were still together. Like, do they have kids now? How does that come into play? Yeah.
Yeah. How is the how is the monster going to use all the new technology to throw things at them?
Oh yeah. Where's shell phone technology at this
Yeah.
point
Are they going to
in
be
the
able to?
sequel?
Are they going to be able to stand on roofs anymore with all the solar panels that are going on?
Right. Has poetry gotten shorter? Because that one poem that girl read was like 2 minutes long, and I was like, no, you could just get the Target poetry book that everybody has.
I'm surprised that that poem fit on her little shell phone because that thing did not look like it had a big screen.
It was a Nintendo DS, basically. It had the two screens, and she was like scrolling, doing the two hands, two fingers. You want to attach a score to this thing?
2 stars.
So originally, when I watched this, I checked because this is one of the first movies I reviewed on Letterboxd when I first got one, and I gave it 5 stars back in the day. And on this second review, I was like, no, you are an older man now. I give it 2 stars.
I gave it 2 stars on Letterboxd, but I'm thinking about it now, and I'm like, I think I rated it too highly.
Give it a 1.5. It'll look like 2, but it's not.
I gave it 2 stars. That was my gut reaction after it ended. I was like, thank God that's over. I'm gonna go take a nap now. 2 stars.
What a way to end the wheel.
And I'm thinking now, do I really think it's worth 2 whole stars?
The soundtrack carries.
The soundtrack is at least, the soundtrack and camera work are at least, okay, I'll give it 2 stars. I'll stick with the 2 stars.
And then on the dad.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'll stick to 2 stars, soundtrack, camera work, and the idea sustains itself for 20 minutes at least.
You're checking your clock. Like, yep,
Yeah.
it hit the 20-minute mark. You get a star.
I'll give you a star for you. Good idea, and you sustained it for at least 20 minutes before you fucked yourself.
And hopefully the sequel's better. Where do you put it on the dad meter?
I don't think this is a dad movie at all.
No, I think the dads are intrigued by they're intrigued by that first 5 minutes where the girls being chased in a circle. Again, the circles, dads like a little bit of symbolism, They don't think a whole bunch of symbolism.
I think at first dads will not mind the whole time period vagueness because they'll be like, hey, 70s car, that's cool. I used to have a car like that. Or, hey, I've seen, when they're watching like fucking black and white movies. Oh, I watched that movie back in the day when I was a boy. And then it'll start to piss them off. Like, didn't they have cell phones before? What's going on? When does this take place?
Who's the annoying girl that keeps reading poetry to them about the themes of the movie?
What's that fucking shell that she's got? I think, it'll eventually piss dads off. I think they'll be intrigued by the premise and it will start to piss them off. Dads don't like to be... If there's one thing dads don't like when watching a movie, it's having to think too hard.
Dads also don't like hanging dong.
They also don't like someone messing up the shingles on a perfectly fine roof.
No. Or someone destroying like the side of a shed.
Yeah. Also,
dads also like firearm safety when they don't like their kids playing with guns, and there's plenty of kids playing with guns here.
There's no characters in this that a dad is gonna attach to. Dads are gonna be like, Dads are gonna be like, who are these people? Why do I care? I don't. And you're gonna change the channel.
Right. The dads might end up cheering for the monster by the end of it.
They might. I'm gonna give this I'm gonna say this is, I don't know, like fucking 20%.
I'm gonna go lower. I'm gonna give it 5%. This is not a dad movie.
Not a dad movie at all. Okay, 5%, 20%. Let's call it 11%.
Yeah, all right, 11%. Right.
This is 11% dad certified, which means not certified at all. We need a thing for not certified.
Dad, undadded, fatherless.
Fatherless.
We'll get a button for it.
This movie is fatherless.
This movie is fatherless. The fathers deny it. Now it is time for our IMDb negative Nancy's. These are fools that go onto IMDb movie pages and write the goofs, the factual errors, what have you, wasting their time and ours.
Now, we might have just, we might have spent this whole podcast shitting on this movie and poking holes into it, but like the way these people do it is fucking, no lifers.
So I have one that is labeled spoilers. At the 59-minute mark, at one point, the entity hits Paul in the torso so hard that he literally flies out of the frame, then quickly gets up, showing no signs of pain or lack of breath. A strike of that magnitude could possibly be fatal or at the very least require immediate hospitalization. The movie would not go on because Paul would be dead at that point.
I wish he would have.
Yeah. Yeah, like as much as we all wanted Paul dead in that moment, no, stop it. Get help. I actually pulled another one. Through the movie, they spelled that wrong, by the way. The shots that covered driving around town were obviously shot in late fall and winter. Bare trees, occasionally leaves on the ground. But the exteriors with dramatic action all took place in the summer. Green trees, obviously warm nights. To which I say, first of all, this is rightfully downvoted to hell. It's a vague movie about a vague time, and they're at least in Detroit, but does it matter what the fucking trees look like, what season it is? It's a movie that's purposely vague about all of that. So maybe the time, maybe the seasons don't bend to the rules that you're used to, you fucking idiot.
These people, man. These fucking
These
people.
These fucking people.
All right, here's mine. At around 10 minutes, when Hugh and Jay are at the movies playing Hugh's game, Hugh points out that he would want to be a child in the room. He says it would be nice to wear a diaper, and Jay says he's probably shitting his pants right now. The shot of the child shows he's 5 to 8 years old, clearly too old to wear diapers.
I forgot about this. When you sent me this, I laughed for a good 3 minutes.
Yeah, hey, person watching this movie, have you thought that maybe these people are 20-year-olds who are just shit-talking a child? And they don't literally think he's wearing diapers shitting himself? Have you ever considered that?
Fucking idiots, man. Fucking idiots. Fucking moron.
Just the worst.
Dad joke. You want to hit a dad joke?
Yeah, I got one here. Based on its reputation, I was expecting this movie to blow me away, but it was quite pedestrian.
Yeah. I have one. The rules of this monster aren't the clearest. I don't follow. That's my dad joke. I had one about elevated horror, but
How does the It Follows monster drink their milkshake? It swallows.
Ow. It swallows. The only thing elevated about this horror is the time the monster got on the roof.
This movie sucks.
Great joke. Great joke. Hey, we don't have a wheel to spin. We don't have anything.
This is the last. This is the last episode.
So do we follow this episode up by ranking the entire first wheel?
Yes. So it's okay. So this isn't the last episode of the season, I guess, but it's the last movie of the season. And what a stinker to end on.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, I normally don't do this when I watch movies for the podcast. I normally don't post about them because I'm like, I'll save my thoughts for the podcast. But immediately after watching this movie, I had to post something. I was like, this movie fucking sucks. And I had a couple people respond. Were like, where can I hear your full unhinged thoughts about this? Because no one's ever said that about this movie. And I'm like, tune in December fucking, I think 27th or whatever when the episode drops, and you'll hear my full thoughts about how I think this movie fucking blows.
I didn't see these. Yeah, I didn't see this. I'll have to go to your Blue Sky and see what you said on there. It's probably everything we just heard, though.
Yeah. I think I didn't spoil too much. I was just like, I normally don't post about movies I watch for the pod, but I just watched It Follows, and fucking what a downward spiral from the opening minutes.
How do you think I feel? I have cake on my face now because I got on Blue Sky in my echo chamber and I said, one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. And now I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah. Well,
I'm very upset.
You can't win them all.
So I know we're not spinning a wheel, and I know we're not rating our movies right now for this wheel. But could we end the episode by saying what movie potentially on the second wheel we are excited about the most?
Okay, here's the thing. I have a giant list of movies that I started it off was like movies for second wheel, and then I just started adding any movies I think could be for a future wheel. So now I just have like a list of 100 movies that we could eventually.
Jesus Christ.
Every time I think of a movie that we could do for the show, I write it down on this list. So now I just have a list of 100 movies that could be on any number of wheels that we do, whether it's the next wheel or the third wheel or the fourth wheel or the fifth wheel. Just tons of options. So why don't you go first, and I'm going to skim through my list.
So let's do 3 each, and then that way it could be on the wheel, it could not. I'm and we've talked about this one multiple times. So if it's not on the wheel, I'm going to be pissed and quit the show. But The Nice Guys.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
super excited about watching The Nice Guys again because this, unlike It Follows, I think this is a movie that has aged really well. It's another movie that features. It's mostly it's in LA, but it's a very you can feel the hand of Detroit on this movie,
Mhm.
and it's got Gosling and Crow in it before Crow blew up.
Oh, I love.
I'm sorry, Crow. I love you.
I love Chubby Crow. I love his fat guy era.
I do love Chubby. As a man who has gained a few pounds in the last few weeks, I appreciate
know
you,
what?
Chubby Crow.
I rewatched Gladiator today in anticipation of seeing the second one tomorrow. And first of all, Gladiator's got to be on a future wheel.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to talking about that on this show. But Russell Crowe had a run from like 95 to 2007 that is maybe one of the greatest runs any actor has ever had. So he's earned his fat guy era.
He's earned his fat Zeus and Love and Thunder
Yeah.
era.
He's earned his fat guy and silly accent era. Like, good for him.
Let him have it.
Yeah. I'm gonna say I'm looking forward to what do I got on this list? Wanted.
Yes.
Yes, we got to get some Angelina Jolie movies on this list, and I am looking forward to. I haven't seen that one since I was like a teenager. I saw it on TV, and I'm looking forward to revisiting that and seeing if curved bullets are as cool as I remember.
That game that came out based on it was pretty good too. Good fucking game.
That is. I had that game before I saw the movie because I was like on a third-person shooter binge. I was like, I need a new third-person shooter. I was like, okay, I'll get the Wanted game. That game's cool.
People talk about Wolverine being like the last really good like movie tie-in game, but that Wanted game's really fucking good. I don't think we've talked about it yet, but I kind of want. I'm gonna push for it to get on one of these wheels. Maybe the second one. I want to do Prey.
That's a good movie.
Prey is it's a newer movie.
I do feel we should do. I do feel like we should do Predator first, though.
Double feature.
Oh, it's possible, but the wheel
They're both shorter movies.
The wheel determines the double feature.
Yeah, you could put them in the same spot. Have the predetermined double features. We're not saying rig the wheel, but rig the wheel.
Okay.
But yeah, I do think Predator and Prey are like two interesting movies that have a pretty good conversation with one another.
Yeah.
About just war and fighting for your life and masculinity. And I also just like Arnold, and McThunder's also really good in Prey. And Prey just blew my socks off. I was not expecting anything going into Prey. I was like, it's basically gonna be Predator 2, but it ended up being like on the level of the first Predator movie.
I just think in general we need more Schwarzenegger. We haven't done a Schwarzenegger movie yet, and that needs to change. But this is a newer movie, and this is very much a dad movie. I saw this in theaters, and I'd love to talk about it on this show. The Beekeeper.
I've heard about the opening sequence in The Beekeeper with the woman that he lives with. And how ridiculous it is.
Listen, let me tell you about The Beekeeper. The Beekeeper is it starts off ridiculous and it continually escalates to become even more by the end of the movie, it's 1,000 times more ridiculous than how it started. And it starts off with him like as a retired beekeeper. He used to be a government agent known as the Beekeeper. Now he's retired. He works as a literal beekeeper on a lady's farm. And the whole thing, it snowballs to a comedic degree. It's fucking incredible.
I've heard a podcast I listened to has referenced this beginning multiple times and just how ridiculous it is about the old woman. And every time I hear about it, I'm like, I need to watch this.
It's so good. It's so funny. So he was a beekeeper, and he became a beekeeper after his retirement. And he's always talking. He's always hitting them with these like bee-related puns. But then it shows you these other beekeepers, and none of them talk like this at all. So it's just him that's like bee obsessed. Like he turned being a beekeeper in his whole personality. It's the greatest thing. He's always talking about doing it for the hive.
No. No.
it's so good. It's so good.
No.
It's so
No.
good. I saw this in theaters when it came out, and immediately I was like, this is gonna be a TNT classic.
They're gonna put this on TNT with the NBA. Well, not NBA anymore, but man, I'm I put that on the second wheel. I do want to watch that. I just want to see how stupid it can get.
It's so good.
My last one, I do think we've talked about it previously. Looper. I want to watch some Looper. We do need some more. We need some more JGL on the wheel for sure in our lives.
Yeah.
We also need some more Bruce Willis in our lives. We already got what's her name from Quiet Place.
Emily Blunt.
We already got some Emily Blunt, but more. Why not? Man, the horror movies on this first wheel really were a letdown, weren't they? For the most part.
Men, not good. It Follows,
Quiet
not good.
Place,
Quiet Place, mid. You know what? I'm starting to appreciate Quiet Place more after these other two horror movies.
Yeah, you know what? That's cinema now.
Yeah.
It's cinema.
You know what?
I'm sorry, John Krasinski. It's cinema.
Listen, it annoys me, but that's a solid 3-star, and it was a clean 90 minutes.
Those characters were at least interesting.
Yeah,
Stupid as they were interesting.
that's true. They were the stupidest people on the planet, but you know what? They were interesting, and you know what? John Krasinski, the man can shoot a tense sequence.
The man can put his finger over his mouth and miss it by this much, and it looks great.
The man can put together an interesting sequence in a movie. I was, unlike these other two horror movies, I was not bored.
We'll find some better horror movies to be represented on future wheels. I promise. I'm sorry, I won't do this, and I won't hype one up and be like, "No, this is the greatest movie you've ever seen, Matt." I can't do it. I won't do it to you again. I've hurt you too much already. But yeah, Looper's really good sci-fi. That's Rian Johnson, right?
Yeah.
Rian Johnson before he was all Knives Out and all The Last Jedi'd up.
Yep. I think there was he did that and then Last Jedi.
Damn. What a transition.
I think he did Breaking Bad episodes in between.
The man was eating. But no, really interesting movie, really good. I wouldn't call it a hard sci-fi, but it's soft sci-fi. And that boomstick gun that JGL is running around with is pretty cool.
Yeah. Every dad loves a movie with a cool gun.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
All right. I'm debating what
You only get one more, so you better pick from that list of 97 or 98 movies.
I have two in mind that I want to shout out. I'm just debating on which one I should go with.
Just do them both. There are no rules.
I'll do this one because it's a bit of an underrated gem in my opinion. I would like to cover Bad Times at the El Royale.
You know, I don't have an opinion about that I read on the internet.
Really?
I don't.
Have you heard of this movie?
Yeah, it has Charlie Day in it, right?
No. It's Jeff Bridges. It's got Jeff Bridges, John Hamm, Lewis Pullman, Dakota Johnson, Chris Hemsworth, the chick from Wicked, who doesn't want to be erased. Can't remember her name. I guess I'm erasing her.
Her eyes look down the barrel of the camera.
Yeah, it's it came out, I want to say 2018.
Yep. It's about, it's gonna be 7 years here soon.
It's a bit of an underrated gem, I feel. It's a really good I don't want to say Tarantino-esque, but it's a really good locked in a single location mystery, following all these different characters.
Oh, and Goddard's really good at the locked in a single location stuff. I forgot he did Cloverfield Lane. Yeah.
I mean, Jeff Bridges is always great, but Jeff Bridges is great in it. Chris Hemsworth plays it takes place in the 60s. Chris Hemsworth plays a cult leader guy. It's the first movie I was like, oh, maybe this Chris Hemsworth guy, he can act.
He's got the chops.
This is when I was like, oh yeah,
this seems interesting. And this Goddard guy, I'm looking at the director and his back catalog. Guy's got chops.
Yeah. I've always enjoyed it. I saw it in theaters when it came out because I thought it looked interesting. I always thought it was underrated, and I would like to talk about it.
Let me make sure it's streaming. I know we got time. I'm gonna have to buy it. Son of a bitch.
Oh, it's not streaming anywhere.
Not yet.
Oh no.
But if the wheel waits, we
That's
could
true.
get it for streaming.
Oh,
Um,
it's streaming for me.
I do wonder when we're gonna have a take where like the listeners are like, nope, that's enough. Fucking find these men and murder them. I'm waiting for us to have that take.
It might be It Follows. People
I
love
hope
this
not.
movie. People love
Maybe-
this movie.
But are they like Silent Hill fans where it's like, all right, get the fuck out of here. Like you love this thing, but get the fuck out of here. We put up with you.
I mean, I don't know. I just know almost everybody responded to my post like, I've never heard anybody say anything bad about this movie. It's so good.
You're right though. It's tough. It's tough. It's rough.
Con Air.
rough.
I don't know how. I mean, Con Air. I know people love Con Air.
I don't know. We have to forgive them. We have to forgive them for that.
So I don't know. I feel like any movie that we shit on is going to have at least one fan who's like, fuck these guys. This movie rules.
They're coming for it. They're gonna come for us. I hope it's not It Follows. I can't, and I get it. You get older and your tastes change and everything, but like, I just couldn't believe as I was watching this movie that like, oh, I liked this. I was capable of liking this at one point.
I just
And
hope
it was the Baby Driver situation all over again.
I just hope that we should do Baby Driver because I liked that movie last time I watched it.
Man,
see if it
it's so
happened. We'll
corny.
see if the
It's
same
so
thing happens to
corny.
me.
It's got me worried because I don't think I've seen Shaun of the Dead since I rewatched Baby Driver.
I watch
And
Shaun
now
of the
it's
Dead. I watch Shaun of the Dead almost every year.
It's got me worried that
No, Shaun of the Dead rules. Shaun of the Dead
got me
still
worried about
rules.
the dialogue. Maybe it's just the delivery in Baby Driver. I also think this is the last Kevin Spacey movie before he got canned. But yeah, just like I like Edgar Wright and I like the whole trilogy he did before Baby Driver. It just has me worried that if I try to go back and watch any of that trilogy, which by the way, we should put one of those movies on the wheel.
I don't know. I watch Hot Fuzz. The World's End I've only really seen the once. But Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead, I've watched a few times and I think they're still great. Hot Fuzz especially.
Yeah, I think The World's End might be my favorite out of those three.
Really. I love Hot Fuzz is so good. Listen, Timothy Dalton in Hot Fuzz, what a guy.
Hot Fuzz is so good.
Yeah. For the greater good.
But the thing I liked them, and at the time when I saw The World's End, I hated it. But then something I grew to appreciate that like it wasn't afraid to like have this shitty character be the main character. I was like, yeah. I think the thing that bumps me on that ending is that like he gets everything he wants. But now that I'm older, I'm like, no, that's how the world works. You're a shitty person and you can potentially get everything you want.
Oh. I think as we wind this down, I just hope that the people who disagree with our opinions know that we don't care.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
Go
And
do something else.
frankly, you shouldn't care either. We're just here for the laughs.
I'm here to get paid. Matt told me if I hit a certain amount of podcasts in the next year, he'll cut me a check. He said if we can get more than one, if we can get more patrons that aren't Steve Buscemi, because we've got Steve at a special level that's $100,000 for a year. He said if we doubled our income off of other patrons, he'd start cutting me a check. So we have to get this Patreon off the ground. Because Steve, we love you. We appreciate the money.
Yeah, but it's not enough. It's not enough. You know, there's a lot of costs. It adds up. It really does. I had to get a new chair. That was at least $10.
So what I'm saying is we've only for the longest time we haven't advertised Patreon because we only got the Steve Buscemi level, which is $100,000 a year, which Steve pays. Steve rightfully pays. So we'll eventually have to make a real one for the real people. Well, Steve, you're real. Steve, you're real. You're real, but you're not real broke like these other people.
Yeah. But yeah, my main point is that if you disagree with any of our opinions on these movies, who cares?
Yeah.
You're allowed to disagree with us.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You're okay. Hey.
It's okay.
Guess what? I don't like your fucking haircut, dude.
Well, you didn't have to go that far. You didn't have, I think you have a good haircut. Don't listen to him. It's nice.
But I don't like it, but that doesn't matter. Who gives a shit what I think about your hair?
Yeah. He's just a faceless podcaster. It doesn't matter if you like a movie that we hate or if you hate a movie that we like. contrary to what the internet will have you believe, you can have different opinions on movies and still be civil.
Yeah. No more death threats, please.
Yeah.
I can't take any more of the Con Air death threats that have come in, mainly from Kate and Amanda. I think it's kind of weird. I think it's kind of weird they're sending us death threats, but
Really, you're getting
Here
death
we
threats. You're getting death threats from them over Con
yeah,
Air.
they're like you didn't like Con Air?
That's
The
crazy.
fuck?
I'm getting death threats from John Cusack.
John Cusack?
Yeah, he sent me death. He heard our Con Air episode. Steve showed it to him,
Steve, man.
which is incredible because at the time we're recording this, that hasn't aired yet. I don't think. No, it has. Has it? I don't know.
Yeah, it came out. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
out.
Okay. It's 2:30 in the morning. I'm delirious, so the bit is all over the place, much like It Follows.
Much like It Follows.
Yeah.
It's all but it's there. It's always there.
It's always there. Yeah. John Cusack sent me a death threat. He was like, "How fucking dare you? That was my finest work as an actor."
You know who sent me something from that movie as I try. Oh, Nick Cage. Nick Cage sent me he sent me a embroidered pillow that said that's not how you treat women.
Oh, you know who sent me something from that movie? Dave
Who?
Chappelle. Dave Chappelle sent me his dummy from the movie that they threw out of the plane with a note attached that said, "It wasn't me they threw out of the plane, it was this." And then he wrote some other things that I will not say because it would get me canceled.
What, that was a dummy?
Yeah.
I didn't even notice.
Incredible, right?
And you'll have to read me all those. I assume it being a message from Dave Chappelle, I imagine there were some slurs in there. So
Yeah.
you'll have to tell me. You'll have to read it or not
Something
read it.
about-
You'll have to bleep yourself.
Something about an Apache helicopter.
Oh boy, Dave. Dave,
Yeah.
come on. Dave, you're better than that. Steve, I don't know if you still are in. I don't know if you still hang out with Dave sometimes, but talk to your boy.
This is this is getting ludicrous. We should call it a day.
We should call it a day. Bye, Steve. Have a good night.
Good night, Steve.
Keep-
Sweetest
Keep
of
Patreoning to us, Steve.
sweetest of dreams to you, Mr. Buscemi.